Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we are back with Matrixa Research Group. Excited to see the founder and CEO here live and in person on our Zoomcast as well as the podcast. Again, we're talking here with Josh Robishaw today, again, about all the work that he does and his company with consulting, with, of course, membership services, you name it, he does it. Let me have him introduce you. How you doing today?
Good morning, Jill. It's happy to be here from a little bit of a cold, wintry Maine today. It's had some snow last night and some ice overnight, so it's a little chilly here today.
Yeah, we're waiting for snow in New York. By now, we normally have at least 9 inches. We have nothing yet, so we're working on that. But good to see you here and stay warm.
I'm trying. I was there over the weekend. There was a little flurries here and there in the city, but nothing crazy. So
yeah, I know, no accumulations yet. We're waiting, but excited to have you back here. So let's talk a little about yourself, your research company. Would you mind introducing yourself today?
Sure. My name is Josh Robishaw. I'm the founder and CEO of Matrixa Research Group. We're a research group that provides a number of different services, general historical research, genealogy. We focus a lot on genealogy. We provide other consulting services, specifically in the areas of travel, domestic international travel planning. We have a travel concierge. We actually couple our genealogy research and travel services together and do genealogy specific travel. And then we have kind of a mentorship department that really focuses on coaching, one-on-one coaching, young adults, corporate level coaching, group coaching. We do resiliency training. We go out and provide resiliency training to folks, whether that be a group setting. Typically, that could be a auditorium size setting at the corporate level or at some sort of big group level. So it's kind of, it seems a little bit over all across the board in a number of different disciplines, but we try to provide a lot. We try to bring some of our expertise to bear for the public.
Great. And let's learn a little bit more about yourself. What brought you into this business? I know you grew up as a very hard worker. You had a lot of, you had good mentors to look up to growing up and to get that hard work in you. But what brought you into this field and to develop Matrixa?
Yeah, I've always, even just growing up, I've always been a historic or history nerd. Just love the mystery behind some of our historic stuff. Always loved just research in general. I ended up joining the Navy at the age of 18 and, ended up doing 22-year career with the Navy. And a lot of my Navy career brought me through different types of research disciplines too. And so it kind of just, ballooned from there until, here we are 22 years later. I decided, how can I bring some of those research things I've learned over the years and some of this expertise I've learned over the years, how can I bring that out to the public? I really didn't want to stay in the government circles or contracting circles. So I decided, let's start my own company, and maybe I could bring some of this expertise to some clients.
And you also mentioned, there's been a struggle. Doing the work that you've done for so long, mentally took a toll on you, and clearly you bring that to the table and you can empathize with others. And could you share a little bit of that experience?
Sure.
As well?
I think that's the bigger piece, I'd say. Over the years, I've been lucky enough that I have my own struggles with mental health and things like that. Of course, the military is a very stressful job, but I broke through some of the stigma there. The stigma is still alive and well, and especially alive and well 10, 15 years ago when most of my stuff happened. But I was able to, with a core group of friends, core peers, great leaders that I was lucky enough to have. And, I fell on a good support group between that and then, mental health professionals throughout the military and the government. I was able to finally seek some help. And then I turned that into kind of being able to showcase, hey, you can get help. You can continue on your career. It's not going to affect your career. You can get help and progress on to where I made it, and it was nice to do that in uniform. When I could speak about it in uniform to fellow service members, I think it just brought it home just a little bit more that, all right, here's this guy that started from the bottom and made it to where he's at now, got some help, and had no detriment to his career. So it's been interesting now. And now, I'm trying to do the same out of uniform. Maybe I can, hey, this guy made it to retirement, and this is the benefits of how mental health got in there, or mental health assistance got in there. So
Got it. And let me ask, what is that book in the background? Could you share?
Which one?
The Terminal
Oh
37?
no,
Is
that's a
that?
big sign. That's I have an antique business too. That's a Terminal 37 Antiques. It's a sign.
Ah, that was
So
something we're showcasing today. I'm like, I
yeah,
didn't know you were an author. I'm like, are you? Did you
I
write a
wish.
book?
I've thought about it, but I don't know if I can get there. I'm trying to write something.
Yeah.
So
Oh my goodness. Well, let's dive in deep. So how can we reach you? Tell us the website, please, and your social media contacts.
all right, so the website's matrixaresearch.com. My main email is explore@matrixaresearch.com. Uh, I'm on all social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Either if you just search for Matrixa Research Group or at Matrixa_explorers is our handle for Instagram and Twitter. So pretty much reachable anywhere there. If you go right to our website, there's a contact page right there, or you can basically look through all our services and book or inquire there. And the inquire will take you right to the contact page. Or if you book now, you can book directly with us. So you'll see a calendar, be able to pick your pick your time slot, and we'll just have a meeting from there. So it's pretty simple, fully reachable in a number of different means. So
Great. So what did you have in mind for us today? Since there's so much to your work that you offer, did you want to talk more about the coaching, more about the genealogy, the concierge? I'll let you add.
I
You could,
think
there's so much.
I agree. I think today I was going to focus a little bit on genealogy. We've talked about it
Sure.
in the last couple of podcasts, and I thought maybe today I'd kind of break it down a little bit and do some basics and talk about how you start, because I think some people get overwhelmed. It's easy to go on, like I said before, it's easy to go online and do some of your own research now, but it's also very easy to get overwhelmed. And if I can break it down a little bit easier and show folks how we do it, and then that might hopefully make it easier for everybody if they're trying to do
Absolutely.
their own research. So
Go for it. I'm ready.
okay, so I mean, for those that don't know, genealogy is the study of families, right? Family
Hmm.
history and tracing lineage of your families back to as far back as you want to go or can go potentially.
Okay.
Um, and we typically use a number of different things: oral records, historical records, DNA, genetic analysis is really big these days. And any other records we can really find. Could be something as simple as a land deed that ties your family to an area or ties your family to a specific plot of land that we're studying.
Okay.
So basically, we'll take any type of info we can um, and use that to build your family history or build your tree. So a lot of the times when a client comes to us, they're either looking for one or two things. They want the full blown, massive family tree, which is a long term project, or they simply want an answer to a question. So the example I used the last couple of weeks, and I'll use again today. In this case, the client wanted he knew his family came from Poland, but how did his family come from Poland through Europe and immigrate to the United States? Where did they go to, and how did his grandparents actually meet? So in this case, it was a simple. I don't want to say simple question because it's never simple, but it wasn't a full blown family history. So something else I'd just like to point out to folks is we follow the genealogical proof standard. So the board of genealogists set forth a standard basically for genealogists to follow, because there's really not you can
Okay.
get board certified. There's not, there's a few college level courses out there to become genealogists or family historians, but there's no, to become a professional genealogist, you really don't need any training.
Okay.
Um, so this proof was set forward to kind of make sure people follow the right thing. And I'll just hit on it real quick,
Sure.
but it's 5 different steps. Basically, a reasonable, exhaustive research has been conducted. So you want to make sure, have I researched the client's problem to my best ability,
Okay.
and exhaustively enough to I think where we got to the point of the problem. And then we want to make sure each statement of fact has a complete and accurate citation. So we just don't want to be making things up. We're going to go out there and make sure that each fact that we put in your conclusions are accurately sourced and they came from the right spot. We didn't just make them up. We also look to make sure evidence is reliable and it's been correlated and interpreted, and I'll hit on that a little bit later. And we also look to make sure any contradictory evidence has been resolved. And finally, when we come to a conclusion, we want to make sure that conclusion is soundly reasoned and coherently written. So we'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's a number of different things a client can request to um, how they want their conclusion published. Basically, do you want an abstract written of your family history? Do you want maybe a PowerPoint presentation depicting everything. However you want that, we just want to make sure that it's that the conclusions we reached are soundly reasoned and coherently written.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, in this case, the client wanted to find out how their family immigrated from Poland.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned it
We
last
talk,
year.
yeah, because I'm from
Or
Poland too. I told you, yeah. Well, technically, my grandfather was an orphanage, and one day I want to track it all and go back and all that. But that's so interesting that you mentioned that you're working with someone. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, ironic, right? Small world. But so in this case, they wanted to know how their family immigrated from Poland. So a lot of times we like to start with an interview. Our basic consults are always free,
Mm-hmm.
our initial consults, and a lot of the times information straight from the family is going to be where we start. So a lot of times families will have some information already, or they'll have
Mm-hmm.
family lore, like stories passed down from
Yeah.
previous time, you know. And it's kind of interesting. That's a point in this specific client's case too, because it's funny how his lore had his grandmother's name spelled a certain way, and we were able to track it down that actually, you know, they were all wrong in how it was spelled.
How
We
ironic,
actually
right?
tracked
Yeah.
down the right person, but the reason it was spelled wrong was there was uh, I believe, it's a death certificate in there that obviously she didn't write her own death certificate, so whoever wrote the death certificate had given the wrong name to the person that created the death certificate. So it was
Okay.
interesting, and then from there that name just
Wow.
stayed. The spelling stayed, but when we
Wow.
actually researched the person and found out the right person, it sounded exactly the same, but it just was spelled different.
Yeah.
So in this case, we took the client's family lore and kind of started there, and we were able to do some initial research, and we try to do the initial research right at the first consult if we can. That way, I kind of have an idea of, okay, is this even a possibility to something we can research? Because sometimes the information is just not there. And then, after that initial consult, we'll discuss, well, what are you really looking for? How far do you want us to go with this? Because obviously there's a cost involved, and it could just go on, not go on forever, but it could just turn into a huge, huge thing if you let. So in this case, we did some research for the client, and we were able to find that his family did. Well, we started chasing back through manifest. Ship's manifest was an easy one here. So we found, again, spelling is really tough. People, a lot of times people came through Ellis Island, and things were spelled different. Things are spelled
Yeah.
different on ship's
Mm-hmm.
manifest.
That's
In this
crazy.
case, his name was just, as you can imagine, a lot of Polish names are very hard to read, but
Uh-huh.
can be a bit long and a bit convoluted. So in this case, his name, while this is separate from the other name we found, his name, the grandfather's name, was close to how they knew it was spelled. So we're able to track that down via ship's manifest. His first name we were able to track down, and then we were able to tie that to a naturalization certificate for him from when he, eventually came to the United States, 15, 20 years later, applied for naturalization and citizenship. And
Mm-hmm.
that document we were able to tie to our client. So basically, we were able to tie that document through our client's mother and then back to our client. Because obviously, we always want to tie these documents and the lineages together,
Mm-hmm.
um, and for the proof in our conclusions. So in this case, some of the family lore was interesting. It wasn't exactly right. They were told both grandmother and grandmother came through New York, and where in fact the grandmother came through New York, but the grandfather actually came through Baltimore. The family eventually, but the grandfather actually immigrated up or landed in Baltimore, but then went up to New York. So grandfather lived in New York, grandmother lived in New Jersey. We're trying to still prove, because I think I told you we want to go out there to Poland, but just can't with the situation in Ukraine right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to prove if they knew each other before they left Poland,
Oh,
which we
wow.
haven't been able to figure out because they both looked like they came from the same town or
Okay.
very close to each other. Or did they somehow meet in New York? There's really no way we can track that down at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But you can kind of see where both people come, spend their time in New York and New Jersey and start, and eventually there's a marriage certificate that pops in there, and eventually they move to Pennsylvania, where basically the client's family started. So they started having children. The client's mother was born in there.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then it led to my client, who was born in the same area. And a lot of times in that case, we'll use federal censuses. 1930, 1940 census was very, very big in this one. The nice thing is, they list every family member that was alive at the moment. In this case, the client's mother used a nickname for a lot of her life, and and we actually saw it being used. It was, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, it was used on one of the censuses. So it was kind of
Okay.
weird trying to track that down and make sure it was the real person that we were able to tie to my friend's grandfather. But it was just interesting there. And then even more interesting was seeing the naturalization certificate and seeing the photo on there and tying it to the client. The client looked very similar to how his his grandfather looked. And so we were able to tie that all back. Like I said, we're piecing together the info, we're gathering the data, making sure the citations are right, making sure the documentation we find is correct. Now, this was somewhat during COVID, so we were hampered a little bit. Had to do most of it online, most of our online research.
Yeah.
But we will travel. We will go to town
Are you actually, I
halls.
was going to say, you actually
Yeah,
pulling records out, town halls, libraries, like, what was it called? Microfiche, like going back to news
microfiche. Yep.
articles.
So,
Is that what it's called? To try to
yep.
find, I mean, it's amazing that for the most part, a lot of this stuff still exists. I
It
mean,
does. Well, and the nice thing is, it's so much of it's been digitized.
yeah.
So a lot of times you don't have to travel anymore. There is something special to say about physically going and seeing the actual document. It just puts that extra little touch on things. But now so much of it's been digitized. You literally, the microfiche has literally been copied, put online, and you can just see it right there. But yeah, we'll go to town halls. We'll go to church records are still out there. Um, all kinds of places like that if we have to. But like I said, the internet does make it a lot easier now. A little bit less travel. We do a lot where clients like to see. I mean, it might sound a little morbid, but like to see the gravestones of their ancestors. So there's actually websites out there now that I think it's findagrave.com that literally takes pictures of
Wow.
graveyards and each gravestone. So we'll do that for families if they want it. But so, like I said, in this case, we were able to track most of it down. At least got them back to a little town in southern Poland. And again, so actually, that's another thing to harp on. Some of it's a history lesson too, because Poland went through a number of different things to how its present day Poland is situated. It was the Austrian-Hungarian Empire pre-World War II, and then obviously World War II had some changes in there. So trying to physically find some of these locations that were identified, late 1800s, early 1900s, in the same place now. Where was it physically located?
Yeah.
Where is it physically now? Obviously, it's the same physical place, but what country is it actually in? Is it in Poland still? Is it in, the Czech Republic? Something like that. So we were able to track that down. And in this case, it was a specific name, but there was 3 towns in Poland that were close to the same name, but just because of some of the information we were able to find, we were able to track it down to one town and kind of make our way there. And so then, in this case, once we start gathering all this data, and at the same time, we're kind of writing some type of published report for the client, depending on what they ask for. In this case, he wanted an abstract. So an abstract for us is typically, however many pages it turns out to be, but it's, maybe a 12-page document that'll go through all the research that we did. It'll give a synopsis of everything that we found, kind of conclusions. It'll provide every source document. It'll provide all the citations. So that's kind of like if you think of maybe the scientific kind of record of what we did. But then, if somebody wants a more polished thing, we'll do more of a what you could call maybe like a book or a written record of what we did. And it'll be more of like a narrative of the family coming over and this and that, but it'll look more like a book or something along those lines. And then some of the other stuff we do that I think is a little bit different than maybe some other genealogists or some other companies out there. We try to do. I offer like a PowerPoint or a visual thing. And in this case, the original plan for them, and we didn't get a chance to do it. I did the PowerPoint of all our research with the hopes that we were going to walk his family through it virtually. They were I guess there was a plan in there that the client and his family was supposed to get together. So I was going to do a virtual presentation. And, we did a really nice visual of all the research and following the family through. We got pictures of the ships they came across and stuff like that, and some of the source documents. And I think that's something a little different that we
That's
provide that most don't.
amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very, so that's still sitting there, hoping we can present it. I did send it to the client, and I don't think he's presented it yet himself. But we're always on standby to help him out there. Um, and so, like I said, that's kind of the end of when you do the research. How does the client want their report wrapped up? Whether an abstract, narrative, family tree. They might just want a basic family tree. There's some nice printers out there. We don't print ourselves, but there's these printers out there that will print these massive, wall size family trees you can get framed that look pretty nice. But again, you need the data for that, so that's what we provide. Or I'm working on a book right now. Basically, I use the word published. I use that a little loosely because it's not like a officially published thing. But I'm working on a hardcover book for a family right now that, probably by the end of it, it'll be 30, 40 pages. It'll look like a book you could buy at, in the bookstore. It'll have family history in it. It'll have history of the world during the time frame of their family, things like that. Though, those things bring significant costs, but they're nice polished products that we provide our customers. And I think, things for they'll cherish for years, and things that they can use forever. So.
Wow, that's amazing to make something like that, to get those pictures. It's got to be, tell me about some of your clients. I mean, like they must, I mean, they're so grateful to you, right? It's got to
Oh,
be such an amazing feeling to see this.
I don't know who has more fun. I don't know if they enjoy it more or I do. Because I mean, honestly, when you make the connections and you see some of the pictures and you see some of the source documents, it's awesome. It just bringing it all together. And then, like you said, then the families get to see it, and they just realize like, oh wow, that's such an amazing journey. Or you're able to tie the history of why maybe they left a certain country, or things like that. When you tie it all together, and the families get to realize that, it's just such a great thing to see, great thing to witness. It's great. So.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And how does it, I mean, has there ever been times where you've been stuck and you just can't make headway, you can't find, or have you always had the success of finding something?
No, that's actually a good point. I meant to talk about that earlier. There are plenty of times when you don't have success, and that's something up front we tell the client, like we might
Yeah.
not be successful. So you could be paying for something here that maybe we don't get the successful conclusion that we're looking for. And obviously we're upfront about that. And then, if it looks like we're going down that path, we're going to stop. We're
Then,
not going to, we're going to talk to the client about it. But that does happen. Or, sometimes information is just not there. For example, there could have been a fire in a church and all the
true.
records are
All
burnt.
the
And
records were
then,
gone. Yeah.
yeah. So that does happen. There's ways to document that, things like that. But like you said, yeah, there's just times where we're stuck and you can't get around it. I mean, other times you might reach out. We're all human, right? So it might be me or the researcher causing the stuckness. So maybe we'll reach out to another genealogist and ask them for some help. Sometimes getting a fresh set of eyes on it helps a lot too. So.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we still have 5 minutes left here on the show, Josh. Just want to remind everyone the website again, matrixaresearch.com, correct?
That's correct.
In the meantime, what else do you want to share? Do
You
you
know,
want to share another story or?
No, I just want to be really quick and transparent about some of the pricing because I think
Sure.
that's important. It is right up front on our website. If you book, you'll see it. But typically we charge by the hour, $50 an hour. But we do have packages where that drops that price down. Like a 10-hour package is 10 hours of research, for example, is 425. 20 hours is 750. Now, some of that don't include travel. So if you want us to travel and do certain things, that'll be extra. We do other simple things too. If you have a family document that a lot of the penmanship and writing back in the day is hard to transcribe, so we do simple document transcription too. We do photo digitization, so if you have your old photos you want digitized, we'll do that for you too. But I think our costs are pretty on par with maybe a little lower, honestly, than the mainstream out there, and we try to keep the cost down and bring a good product to the customer.
Yes. Awesome. 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 All right, Josh. Also, at this time, well, again, we have 3 minutes left.
Okay.
Is there any ending? What else do you want to share about you, your company, or services, how we can reach you? Or we still have more time to talk about, anything that you wanted to add to the conversation for today?
No, I'll just add, please reach out.
Yes.
The free consult, the initial consults are always free. I am willing to talk. I love to talk about this stuff. If I can help in any other way that with your research problems, your genealogy problems, your travel problems, I'm here ready to talk about mental health and put myself on stage if I can to speak to your audiences. So we're just Matrixa is ready to go, and we're here to help. And we look forward to our new clients for 2023 signing up, and hopefully we can help each other out.
Great. And still the coaching and all and that whole aspect and consulting, there's still so much more to you and your business I want to get to. Again, we have more time to talk. I hope we can discuss that at some point as well. I'm just curious though, you're consulting with corporations, with individuals as far as like personal growth or financial growth, or could you just give me a little?
It's more, I would say it's more leadership. When we do that type of stuff, it's more leadership and mentorship. And then even if they want, if the corporations or groups want resiliency training or that work-life balance type discussions, that's more of what we do. It's definitely more leadership driven or mental health advocacy driven than anything. So
perfect. All right, thank you again. So matrixaresearch.com. Do you have a phone number, other social media pages you want to share?
Like I said, all Facebook, Instagram, all the pages, LinkedIn. And then we're on the web, matrixaresearch.com, and you can see everything there and book everything right there. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day. Looking forward to the next time we connect. Josh, great to actually see you here live in person. I know, right? Again. For those in the podcast, we're Zooming, so I get to see him today and talk face to face, which is important. And thank you again for sharing your thoughts on genealogy and how you can help. Also, don't forget about the customizable trips you can plan around your genealogy, where you're from, to get more of that. I mean, you guys do a lot. So we'll talk again next week, and you have a fantastic day.
All right, thanks, Jill. See you next week.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.